What's up, guys? Welcome back to Movies and Brews. This is a video I've been dying to make for a while, but I really wanted to wait until the week that Captain America Civil War comes out, and that's this week. So here are my top 5 favorite films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's get to it. So coming in at number 5 on my list is Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie got a lot of critical backlash. People were saying that it didn't serve as a worthy sequel to the first Avengers. It said that it worried too much about setting up future films and just a whole mess of problems. I personally didn't have those problems with this movie because I went into this movie not expecting it to be as great as the first Avengers. I don't think any Marvel movie will ever be as good as that first Avengers movie because, well, I'll get to that reason why in a couple minutes. But judging Age of Ultron as a movie, I thought it was a solid sequel. It laid down excellent groundwork for future movies. It laid down groundwork for Civil War, building tension with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. It lays down some visions from Thor Ragnarok. And we even get some hints at Infinity War. We see the Infinity Stones lined up in a vision. We see Thanos in the end credit scene putting on the Infinity Gauntlet. Like it perfectly set up the rest of the movie universe, not just Phase 3. Coming in at number 4 on the list is James Gunn's space opera, Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie is a perfect example of a movie that knows exactly what it is. If you went up to a stranger and were just like, I'm going to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a movie about a guy, a green alien assassin, a talking tree who can only say its name, and a talking raccoon in space. They would think you were fucking crazy. And this movie embraces that. It embraces the fact that it's a cartoon. It's just a flat-out fun movie. From start to finish, it's just jokes mixed in with great action, great visual effects, and it's unapologetic too. It, like I said before, it knows exactly what it is, and it has no problems with that. Also, this movie serves as a great expansion to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Besides Asgard, we haven't really gotten out of Earth too much, and this movie really showed us that there's much more out there besides Thor's world of Asgard and the Avengers down on Earth. So this is really setting up the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to show the bigger things to come, hopefully in Infinity War and beyond. Also, this movie has the greatest soundtrack I've ever heard in any fucking movie ever before. Coming in at number 3 is Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier. This is definitely the grittiest and most grounded of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And if you've seen my review of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, you know that I'm a huge fan of the gritty and dark kind of tone to these superhero movies. So right from the start, I was really into this movie. But compared to the rest of them, it's very grounded. It's very small scale. It's basically a political thriller, this movie. And I thought that was very interesting to see, because most of the Marvel movies nowadays, they're just these grand blockbusters that take place on huge scales and have massive stakes. And yes, there's massive things at stake in this movie, but it feels very personal, and I thought that was very cool. Also, it reintroduces us to what is now one of my most favorite characters in this universe, and that's Bucky Barnes / the Winter Soldier. I'm very, very interested to see where they take this character, because I feel like there's a lot that was left unsaid in the Winter Soldier to save for future films, especially Civil War. Coming in at number 4 is the movie that started it all, Iron Man. I was about 16 years old when this movie came out. I went into this movie basically blind. I knew nothing about Iron Man, knew nothing about Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. I knew nothing about S.H.I.E.L.D. So I went into this movie knowing absolutely nothing. And from the very start, I was hooked. And if there was ever an example of an actor owning a role, it would be Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr. just totally engrossed himself in this role and has basically become Tony Stark. Like nowadays, when I watch a movie, it's not like I'm watching Robert Downey Jr. It's like I'm watching Tony Stark. It's almost ridiculous, but he's totally owned this role. This movie had such a perfect balance of grit and comedy, and it was just a great experience from start to finish. And after it being out for 8 years today, actually, I can still watch that movie start to finish and enjoy the hell out of it. And now to my number 1. You have to be thinking, if it wasn't number 1, it wouldn't be on this list at all. And you guessed right. My number 1 Marvel Cinematic Universe film is The Avengers. This movie was just magical. for lack of a better word. The first time you see them all standing in a circle, that one famous shot from the movie where they're all ready to take on the Chitauri, it's just you get goosebumps watching it. You still do watching it. That's why I said earlier, I don't think they'll ever recapture that magic in a future Avengers film, because it was the first time that we've seen any superhero team really team up like that besides the X-Men, but we had been waiting so long to see that team up and just had so much build up, and it just paid off so perfectly. The movie really paints a good picture of all these characters' worlds colliding. Like, they didn't really know that each other existed. Like, Tony Stark knew that Steve Rogers had existed, but Steve Rogers, everyone thought, was dead for 70 years. And he gets like that little file. You see his face when all the things pop up. He sees Bruce Banner as the Hulk. He sees Thor. He sees the Tesseract, and he's just like, "Oh my God! Like I'm just a small piece of this puzzle. There's so much more out there." And it was awesome to see all these characters' worlds collide, and to see the tension between them, because they didn't get along at first. They still don't really get along, and it was very cool to see that, especially that first fight between Thor and Iron Man. That was just fucking awesome. Another great thing about the first Avengers is it has the best villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think ever. I don't think Thanos is going to be as good as Loki. Loki was the best villain, is the best villain, and probably will remain the best villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He could not do another movie at all, and however many phases they decide to do with this franchise, and he would still be the best. I don't know what it is. Tom Hiddleston just gives an amazing performance and just totally engrosses himself in this role. He's just perfect to play Loki. And I don't think any other villain will ever give us that magic that Tom Hiddleston did as Loki. On the whole, I thought The Avengers was just an amazing movie from start to finish. It does an excellent job at keeping you invested in the story. It made 2 hours and 20 minutes feel like 2.5 minutes. It was just a fucking awesome movie. Probably one of the best comic book movies I have ever seen in general. Out of all the in the big universe of the comic book movies that we have now that seem to be coming out every other week, this movie still stands close to the top for me. So that was my top 5 movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tune in next week to Movies and Brews, as we'll be reviewing, you guessed it, Captain America Civil War. And if you haven't seen any of these movies on this list, I highly recommend going out and seeing every single one of them. And if you're just a stranger in general to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what the fuck are you doing? Get on your ass on a couch and watch these movies right now. Thanks, guys. See you next week.